Ever wonder how your favorite streaming service just knows what you want to watch next? Or how your inbox magically keeps spam out? Well, the secret sauce behind all of that is a technology that's totally changing the game: machine learning. So today, we're going to break down what it is, how it actually works, and why it's such a big deal. Let's dive in.
Let's start with a really simple but honestly mind-bending question. What if software could teach itself? I mean, think about it. Instead of a programmer telling it exactly what to do, step by step, what if a program could just look at a problem, learn from it, and figure out its own solution? That one idea, well, that's the key to everything.
So to really wrap our heads around what makes machine learning so special, we first have to look at how software has worked for decades. We have to understand the world of fixed, unchangeable rules.
Okay, so check out this contrast. On the left, you've got traditional software. This is where a human has to sit down and write a specific rule for every single possibility. It's all manually programmed. But machine learning over on the right just flips that whole model on its head. It doesn't follow rules that we give it. It actually discovers the rules by learning from tons and tons of data.
Now, this old way of doing things, the fixed rule way, it works perfectly fine for a lot of tasks, no doubt about it. But what happens when the world gets messy? Too complex, too unpredictable. What happens when those handwritten rules just aren't enough anymore?
Well, you slam right into challenges like these. I mean, just imagine trying to write a rule for every possible way a spam email could be written, or for every shadow, every angle, every expression on a human face in a photo. There's just no way. The sheer volume and variation are completely overwhelming.
And that's the breaking point, right there. In these super complex, real-world situations, the old method of trying to design every rule by hand, it just breaks down. It fails.
And this is exactly where machine learning comes into the picture. Instead of trying to force perfect, rigid rules onto an imperfect world, we change our entire approach. We let the system learn for itself, straight from the data.
So what is machine learning really? At its heart, it's about using computers to find patterns in data that we humans might miss. Instead of telling the computer exactly how to do something, we just give it a whole bunch of examples and let it figure out the how on its own. It's pretty much like learning from experience, but for a machine.
You can kind of think of it as a three-step process. First, you give the system experience, which is just a fancy word for data, piles of it. Then you give it a task, a really specific goal you want it to achieve. And finally, you measure its performance. And the whole point is that its performance gets better and better the more data it sees.
All right, I know, that still might sound a little abstract, so let's make this real. Let's look at an example of a system that adapts, and you'll see how this whole idea builds into something incredibly powerful. We're going to talk about fraud detection.
Okay, just try to picture this. Every single day, financial companies are processing millions upon millions of transactions. It's this enormous, constant flood of data. And somewhere in that massive ocean of data are the bad guys, the fraudulent transactions. The challenge is, how do you find them? You can't just hire a team to write rules, because as soon as you figure out one scam, the criminals invent a new one. It's a constant cat-and-mouse game. This is where machine learning is an absolute superstar. You feed a model tons of historical data, all the good and bad transactions. It learns the difference. It figures out what normal looks like versus what fraud looks like. Then it automatically flags anything that seems off. But here's the magic part. As criminals get craftier, the model sees those new, weird patterns and adapts. It actually gets smarter at spotting threats it has never, ever seen before. So what this all boils down to is a really fundamental shift in how we even think about solving problems. It's this data-driven difference that makes the technology so revolutionary.
And this quote just nails it. It really is the shift. We're moving away from explicit programming, from telling the computer every little thing it needs to do, and we're moving towards data-driven adaptation, letting it learn, letting it adapt. That right there is the entire revolution.
And that's the so what, right? This ability to learn directly from data is why machine learning is a game changer everywhere. It's why it's so good at forecasting the stock market, personalizing your shopping experience, you name it. That movie recommendation isn't following some simple rule. It's literally learning your personal taste from your behavior.
So let's just end with this thought. The core idea is simple. We let computers learn from data, which really leaves us with one massive question. If that's what they can do, what's the limit? What problems that seem impossible today could we solve tomorrow with this incredible approach?